from the British Empire. We did that by means of a violent revolution. We fought a war with England, 1776. We've all learned about it in school umpteen times. We know. And an amazing thing happened. The British Empire, which at that time ruled the world, the slogan in England at that time was, "The sun never sets on the British Empire," because we've got the whole world covered, from India to Africa to, you know the story. Okay? To the amazement of everybody, the British were defeated by the Americans in that Revolutionary War. But they didn't give up. In 1812, we had another war where the British Empire decided again to try to squash the new emerging economic power of the United States. 2 wars, they were defeated both times. Finally, the British got the memo. This is not going to work. You are not going to undo the history that you yourself helped to make. So what you ought to do is sit down and work out with the United States this new get over your upset that your empire isn't growing anymore. Get over it. Recognize that your empire is now on the downturn and that a new power is arising, namely the United States. And they worked out a peace agreement that lasted a century. Okay, you want my answer? That's what we ought to be doing with Russia and China. Not go to one little war or not so little, one proxy war. Next, we'll have a war that isn't a proxy war. You know, we're on the edge of it anyway, almost every day. We'll do something in the South China Sea. We'll provoke one way or another, or we will be provoked. This is a dead end. It's not in our interest. It's not in their interest. We need to live with this new emerging economic power. We don't need to keep trying to squash it. It doesn't work. Every other empire, Greek, Roman, British, Persian, Ottoman, you go through them. They all had a ride up, then they plateaued, and then they went down. The last 100 years has been the American empire, especially after World War II. It was a great ride up for the U.S. It's going to be a bumpy, difficult ride down. And the sooner we face it, the better our judgments will be and the better our policies will be, because where we are going, whether it's Ukraine or banning TikTok or hounding Huawei, these are things that are going to hurt the U.S. I keep trying to explain to people, when Saudi Arabia shifts its oil resources from the West to China and Russia, this is a screaming signal. Even the people you thought were most dependent on you aren't anymore. And unless you're blind or blinded by some ideological reflex you ought to outgrow, you're going to be making one mistake after another, and people like you and me are going to be talking.
I'm watching, sorry, there's like this leftover thing. I'm just working on some more leftover settings. Hold on, just fucking chill, guys, okay? I feel so bad. Ethan looks so bored at this. Oh my god.
To that, with all of the other hegemonic powers, or at least like superpowers that are growing at an rapid pace.
The propaganda, though, that I think a lot of people consume in America is that these countries are not willing to work with us. It's them that's putting up the roadblocks.
But they are working with us. We're working with them all day, every day. I mean, we have no commerce without China.
Listen, let me give you a couple of just simple statistics. Throughout the entire anti-Chinese or China bashing or whatever you want to call it of the last 8 or 9 years, beginning at the end of Obama right through the tariff and trade wars of Trump, and now the continuation under the neocons working with Biden. Throughout that time, the trade between the United States and China goes up every single year. There's a peculiar disconnect between, if you pardon me, the roaring bullshit from the politicians and the underlying reality that we need them. We need them to produce consumer goods. If the American people had not been able to buy cheap Chinese consumer goods over the last 30 years, they would have demanded and they would have gotten higher wages to pay what would have been the price if those things had been produced anywhere else. Capitalists in America are grateful, if they're honest, for the cheap Chinese goods that have made it possible for profits to go up without rising wages, because you could go to your neighborhood TJ Maxx store and buy inexpensive Chinese clothing, or to the other stores. You know, there is no Amazon, there is no Walmart without Chinese goods. If you plot the growth of Walmart and the growth of China, you discover something. It's the same business. The China can outproduce us on everything, but they could never have gotten into the American market unless Walmart, Target, and all the others acted eagerly to be the distributor of those Chinese goods and to make a fortune for themselves along the way. Those are the realities. The rest is make-believe. Nobody wants this war in Ukraine. Above all, the people of Ukraine, who are suffering beyond all words the destruction of their society. Who's benefiting out of this? I mean,
American weapons manufacturers.
Excuse me?
American weapons manufacturers are.
Yep.
It seems like those with the least to lose and the most to gain out of this are the ones that are pushing for it and pushing for the continuation of it, whether it be Boris Johnson back when he was the prime minister going into Ukraine during the first round of peace negotiations or a possible ceasefire and peace negotiation talks that were happening, organized by Turkey, or whether it be, Ned Price and numerous other American State Department officials continuously talking about how they are not interested in peace at all. Obviously, there's an argument here about what Ukrainians want, and some will say that, the overwhelming majority of Ukrainians want to keep fighting this fight, but ultimately, we are not giving Ukrainians everything they want. It's not like we're, implementing Article 5. We're not even giving Ukrainians F-16s. We're not training them on that. We might down the line, I think, but so far, these are demands that they've made that we haven't conceded to. So, I think that pushing for peace negotiations on that front, with China and Russia at the other side of the table, with Ukraine and the United States of America on one side of the table, would be the quickest and most swift way to try to stop this conflict and further bloodshed from continuing.
Well, I mean, let me just expand one dimension of that point. We now have a defense budget, depending a little bit on how you look at it, in the neighborhood of $850 billion to $1 trillion. If you take a look, it's more money than the next 8 or 9 countries in the world combined spend on their military. We have just authorized an additional $100+ billion just for the war in Ukraine. Even if you believe that one motivation for the Ukraine war is the money being made by the defense industry, we already are doing more than anyone in their right mind could ask to provide them with a profitable business. Over $1 trillion. I mean, I don't even think they're that greedy. They're getting a big bundle with no opposition. Nobody opposes the defense budget. I mean, a handful of people, but it's basically trivial. The two parties that run our politics are both eager to outdo one another in supporting the defense budget. They're in very good shape. They don't need another $100 billion war on top of the gift that this one represents. So for me, I don't think it's even them. I wouldn't mind criticizing them if I thought it, but I don't see, they've made a ton of money by all the stuff we've shipped to Ukraine, and all of that will have to be replaced. They will get the money and the profit out of that. The budget is huge, and it got a
Good one, guys.
tremendous boost. Look, I'm an economist, and two things have happened in the last year that strike me as downright funny. We are in a supposed war against the inflation. In our country. And to that end, we have a Federal Reserve, our central bank, that has raised interest rates. And that's supposed to slow down the spending by individuals and businesses because they can't, it's too expensive to borrow money at high interest rates, et cetera, et cetera. What's the worst thing you can do to an inflation? Pour money onto it. It's like squeezing kerosene on a campfire. It flares up as a stupid thing to do. What have we just done? We have just spent an extra $100 billion on a war in Ukraine. Most of that money goes right back into the American economy because it pays for the military one way or another. And Mr. Zelensky is not stupid. He understands you better spend that money back in the United States and not in some other country, because that will be the fastest way to cut that game over, number one. The second thing we did when our banks started to collapse a couple of weeks ago was to say that the Federal Reserve is going to come in and give any bank in trouble losing deposits, they can go to the Federal Reserve and borrow brand new money to replace the deposits. Well, let me explain to you. If the deposits go from a troubled bank to an untroubled bank, that's still money circulating in our economy. If the Federal Reserve backstops banks by pumping more money in, then you've got a bank crisis leading to more money and a war leading to more money. You're not slowing down the inflation that way. You're making it worse. What's my point? It's obvious. No one discusses it in this country. No one is saying, wait a minute, we got to think about the inflationary. If we propose to help the food stamp recipients for another 6 months, the issue of inflation would be raised.
Yeah, that's a moral hazard. It's only a moral hazard as it pertains to the working poor when you're helping the working poor. It's never a moral hazard when you're helping bankers get golden parachutes in the aftermath of the 2008 financial collapse. So what you're basically, just to make it a little bit easier to understand for our audience here, am I correct in stating that we have two methods of dealing with the inflation? We have monetary policy and fiscal policy. Right. Fiscal policy conducted by the legislative branch, which is usually just completely powerless, with the exception of the bipartisanship that they always find when it comes down to more money for the military. And then the monetary policy is also one that you can use, and it's pretty much the only one that you can use, unfortunately, because there is no such deflationary fiscal policy that the Republicans or the Democrats will ever allow. So they're utilizing that the control over the inflation by controlling the interest rates with the express purpose of depressing wages, kicking people out of jobs, with the hopes that like inevitably people will be this tight labor market will turn back around and you will have a labor force that's willing and able to take less pay for the same work.
Yeah, and again, I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but again, I'm astonished. I'm an economics professor. I'm astonished that the only way we are discussing as a nation dealing with the inflation is by raising interest rates, which will throw millions of people out of work. And everybody knows that, which will probably hurt the poorest amongst us most, the last hired, the first fired, all of that again, worsening the disparities of our racial community, of our ethnic community, of the genders, and on and on. Really, we're going to go through that? I'm a professor. I learned that there are other methods of dealing with inflation.
Can we talk about that? Can we talk about that?
Do not involve raising interest rates. I'm mystified why I live in a country where the people in charge know what I just said, and they refuse to discuss it. We have a country in which raising interest rates is considered like the thing, the only thing, and all that's left for us to discuss is how many percentage points it'll go up or down, how soon. Let me drive it home in a personal way. But people seem to like this, so I'll
Did
tell
he even
you
hear
this
what
story.
Hussam said?
I got my PhD in economics at Yale University. At the time I got it, it was almost all men who were students. Women didn't go into economics then. They do much more now, but they didn't then. So there were 2 or 3 women in my class, and we all got to know them because there were only 2 or 3 women in my class. And one of them, who took the same courses I did, in the same classroom I did, from the same professor I did, was a woman you've gotten to know. Her name is Janet Yellen. So I know what she knows. She knows what I know. We were schoolmates. We went to the same graduate program. In that program, we learned that one of the most interesting ways to stop an inflation that has been used in many countries at many times, often with great success, and that was used August 15th,
Is he gonna find a way to? Is it going to be
1971
tax the
by
rich?
the
It's got to be
sitting
tax the rich.
President Richard M. Nixon. He got on television and he said to the American people, "We've got a terrible inflation. Here's how we're going to deal with it." As of right now, as he was speaking on radio and TV, any business that raises its price, we're going to come for you, we're going to arrest you, and you're going to jail. Any union or other worker organization that pushes or tries to push the wage up, we will do the same to you. This policy is called in this country a wage price freeze. In other countries, it's called an incomes policy because it freezes the income of the employer and the income of the employee at the same time, wherever it happens to stand. That was originally put into effect for 90 days. It was extended. It brought the inflation down. It is an alternative. It has its strengths and weaknesses, just like raising interest rates, but they're different. And an honest society trying to deal honestly with its problems would have a debate publicly about these alternatives. And by the way, there are others I could give you if you were interested. It's not the only 2. There's more than 2. But we live in a society that has a quick dismissal. If they even admit what I just explained to you, which is in every history book and can be verified in 10 minutes of Googling anything, there's no excuse for what's going on. Just like breezily dismissing the Ukraine war by saying the Russians and the Chinese don't offer to sit down and have a ceasefire. Both of those countries have done it. Maybe they're lying. Maybe they'd cop out once you started the process. But we're not in a very good position to call them bluffers if we haven't called the bluff. And if we're willing to sit down without conditions, why don't we say so? And I don't think you can use the argument about what the Ukrainians want, because here I'm not interested in criticizing Mr. Zelensky, but you should know, if you don't, that he has shut down opposition newspapers, opposition media, opposition politicians. He's fighting a war. Maybe you have to do that in war, but there is no way to know what the mass of the Ukrainian people feel unless you want to take the fact that somewhere between 6 and 7 million of them have left the country, and it's not that big a country, and that would not be a sign that you would want to make a big argument about, that this shows that they're in favor of fighting to the last Ukrainian, since they've made a choice not to be among those last Ukrainians that we're fighting for. So it does strike me as there's an awful lot of accumulated evidence that we're not dealing honestly and straightly with these major problems of our society. And that's usually the sign of a society that is scared shitless, if you pardon my Spanish, and therefore is functioning with a level of anxiety that is scary to watch.
Getting back to fiscal policy and monetary policy, you talked about some things that have demonstrably worked, like the Nixon price freeze.
Right.
For contemporary America, for contemporary American society, do you have any suggestions on fiscal policy that would be deflationary? And can we even implement these policies?
Absolutely. The first policy that would be deflationary, and it is long overdue, is raising taxes on corporations and the rich. If you want it very concrete, reverse the tax cuts that were passed in December of 2017. The biggest single economic act of recent history was that tax cut. That is what produced the $1 trillion deficits we've had ever since.
Okay, I'm bored. I'm good on that. All right. I can never tell. I feel like with a lot of laptops, I feel like the hardware is good, but sometimes it's like laggy to like drag windows around and shit. And I don't know if it's because of like the weird shit that they package into laptops, or if I should just do like a clean Windows install, but I don't know if that'll fuck with shit. You know what kind of stuff you're going to talk about on Temple? It's probably going to be the trans shit. It's my guess. And then, I don't know. You know the Nixon price freezes were trash, right? I don't know. I haven't looked into it enough. That's noticed my laptop turning up the fans improves the performance a lot. The fans are pretty high right now. And it's not like I'm running a ton of shit on this laptop. Did you check the Armory Crate thing? Yeah, but like, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do with that. Oh, and it wants to update already. Okay. Key Moody Booty alert. He smashes it. Wait, what happened? Dude, it's so laggy. But I don't think it's Twitch. I think it's just this laptop right now. It's laggy as fuck. Hold on. Okay, what's he doing? Hitting a blue buff.
I can fucking not, dude.
He misses.
I cannot.
Set armor crate to turbo setting? That I feel like that's gonna jack my fan up to like fucking 12 million RPM though. We can't see what you're saying. I can't really show you my desktop because I'm on a fucking laptop, okay? For security reasons. That would be bad OPSEC, okay? It said it's too hot and throttling. Is it? It doesn't even feel that hot. Unless it tries to throttle at like 60C or something, I don't know. Fuck.
Questions. What happened to Damar Hamlin? What happened to him? What was that? And why can't we ask about that? What was that? Until we can understand what that was, people are covering things.
Yeah, I hate that.
So, and by the way, as I've said repeatedly, I'm completely prepared to understand that that was a post-COVID or a post-COVID plus vaccine or a vaccine reaction. Any of the three, I am wide open to. At the time he went down, I was thinking more about post-COVID type reactions, but there is one diagnosis. Have I said this publicly? Have I said this? I better say this just so I'm on the record with it. There's one diagnosis that would explain everything that is simply not post-COVID. And here's the data. He stands up after the tackle. With commotio, you don't stand up afterwards. You go flaccid immediately. And not only that, but commotio doesn't happen in a football player, and it rarely happens in adult. It usually happens in pre-adolescent males from a projectile, like a hockey puck, an elbow, or a baseball. So already we were in weird territory. But then the fact that he stood up, took a couple steps, and fell down, that doesn't happen with commotio. So it's something else. And he has no pulse immediately. Well, what kinds of things do that? Well, only a few things do it. Most of them are cardiac. And when the cart is restarted again, people usually kind of come around. Now, they can have a shock lung, right? So they need to be ventilated, and they can have neurological effects, and they can be a while before they're breathing normally on their own. But in Damar's case, he arrested again in the ER. That's weird unless he...
Jesus. Okay. Maybe I'll try to go out and eat and stream with my phone. I think I need to like work on this. I wonder if I should just do like a fresh install of Windows on a laptop, but I'm always paranoid that there's going to be like some proprietary shit. Whenever I go to drag something on this monitor, there's like a down arrow and an expanding thing. Is that a Windows 11 feature, or is that like some software with the laptop feature? I think it's to move it to the other monitor or to maximize the window. That's Windows 11. Do the Windows reset on a USB stick so you don't get stupid shit. That's not Windows 11. Like, do I need like my Asus? I don't even know what the fuck this program is. Getting rid of the non-standard shit is half the point. Yeah, so I feel like I should just do Yeah, maybe just a clean install. Fuck it. Can you do like a clean thing from Windows now if you just like reset? Like, is that pretty good, or do I need to do like the whole USB stick and get all that shit? Adjust the fans and see first. No, it shouldn't be the fact that I need to turn the fans up to 12,000 RPM just to like drag browser windows around my laptop without it fucking lagging. That's insane. There's no way. A clean image will require a new ISO and USB. You really don't think reset your PC is good enough? Does it lag in any other way? Well, it's just like, it's like, even like dragging this window around the laptop is like super laggy. Like, this shouldn't happen. This CPU is like insane. Everything about this laptop is crazy. Like, the desktop experience should be like an iMac. It should be like smooth as fuck with no questions asked. But it's not. Like, everything dragging around the monitor and shit is just like really, really, really laggy. Like the browser is like lagging the fuck out of the laptop. I have a ROG X13. My laptop was noisy and lag at first, but it was cleared after Windows Update and Armory Crate shit stopped downloading. In the task manager, what's current gigahertz / clock speed? Like, even clicking things here is like fucking laggy. It's so stupid. 4.8 gigahertz. Does it happen when the second monitor is disabled? Disabling the second monitor seems to help a lot, actually. Disabling the transparent effects feature, settings makes the laptop work smoothly, keeping the settings connected. Disabling the transparency effects feature, settings, accessibility. What is that settings accessibility on? Is that on like the Armory Crate thing, or? Where's Windows settings? Which settings? System? Settings, accessibility, visual effects. Just type settings in the search bar. Settings. Display settings, Windows Update settings, maybe display settings. Accessibility. I don't see accessibility anywhere. Downgrade to Windows OS 10 did the job to fix this. The real problems began very slow boot, no boot at all, full OS crashes. Huh. Oh. I wish I could show you guys, I don't have like a separate camera with me. Like dragging windows around the laptop is like laggy as fuck. Like stutter, 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 stutter. But I don't understand how. I don't know what's stuttering. That's the only issue. Why? This is why people buy Macs, dude. I'm feeling it. I'm starting to feel that fucking MacBook. I used to learn how to use fucking shit-ass fucking iOS. Adjust the appearance performance of Windows. Yeah, I already turned off the transparency thing, but... Have you tried changing your top monitor to 60 hertz? Kill yourself. Why the fuck would I change my fucking monitor to 60 hertz? Are you fucking retarded? I would trash this and buy a $700 fucking laptop before doing that. What camera am I using to show now? It's a built-in webcam. The built-in webcam is pretty decent. Is anything maxing out in the task manager? No, those are like old problems. Right? Random things maxing out in the task manager. It's never that easy to diagnose, especially laptop problems. It's always some weird esoteric shit, like the secondary GPU isn't properly functioning, or there's like some weird like L3 cache issue on the chip that doesn't communicate well with some proprietary UEFI program that's loaded onto the chip the way that, like, it's always some like really weird fucking esoteric shit. Dusty, it almost says your GPU isn't even available. What does that mean? I don't see my GPU in the task manager. Do you think that might be it? Oh no, wait. If I go to performance, I see GPU. GPU 0 and GPU 1, and they're both like working. Do a clean install? Yeah, maybe. Someone wrote a guide on resetting the Zephyrus Duo. 2 years old. Holy shit. Is there really a Linux distro called Fedora? Interesting. And it's one of the best. Wow. This government wanted to help you return this laptop. I don't fucking know. We'll see. Fuck it. I'll try reset. We'll see how it looks after that. Best Buy is a 50-day. Oh, I Amazon this. Okay. Well, we might go out to eat. Maybe I'll stream on my phone. Otherwise, I'll be at Tim Pool tonight. Stay safe. Be careful. I think Tim Pool is live, right? It starts at 7 or 8 or something. In his studio? Yeah, it should be. I mean, I'm over here near his house. So. What time zone? EST.